Hello and welcome to BusyWorksBeats.com. I need you guys to smash that like button. Today I'm bringing you 7 melody secrets, okay? And these are really simple because they go in sequence. So the first melody secret is to understand melodies derive from chords. If you skip chords, you're always going to be confused about where melodies come from. So I built a tool to teach you guys intervals, chords. For example, you can try the learn game, or you could try the actual game mode, pardon me, where you can actually learn different voicing. So now I can play this on my keyboard and it will tell me if I'm voicing these chords correctly. And so when you learn more chord vocabulary, you guys can go through and start understanding what actually makes a chord, what actually makes something exciting. Okay, so I was playing the wrong chord there. Okay, so C, E, G. Now over time, I'm going to show you guys where it switches. So right now it's doing what's called root voicing. And you'll get used to the actual tone of each chord, but then it's going to switch to where it says first inversion. So right here, it says second inversion. So we're not going to play just C, E, G. Okay, we're actually going to play G, C, E. So that's inverting that top note down. Okay. And then now we have a new voicing. So you might find, like, for example, Dr. Dre, you guys are familiar with it. Just click the clear button here to reset this. So for example, you guys are familiar with the, but they're not playing it just D minor and C major. Okay, they're actually playing it with a different voicing. So understanding this can unlock so much for you guys. Now what happens if I take what's called the root note and pull it up an octave? And now we get that melodic tone. So the first step in understanding melody is that it derives from chords. Chords are the answer when you guys ever get stuck. 99% of the time, it's because you just don't understand that there's a chord underneath the melody. So you could play a chord this way, but you're playing 2 chords, D minor, C major. You're just revoicing them so it sounds different. I'm pretty sure I heard a game beat that went like that. So again, if you don't know me, I'm Game from BusyWorksBeats.com. We've trained over 1 million producers around the world. Some have gone to work with Drake, Kanye West, Post Malone, Ariana Grande, French Montana, Young Thug, Polo G, Trippie Redd, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, Glorilla. We have 3 confirmed Grammy winners and multi-platinum plaque winners. And it comes down to these fundamental principles. So again, the first principle, I know it went kind of fast, is to understand chords. And I even have a system in this chord codes at BusyWorksBeats.com that will teach you guys different things like intervals, for example. Okay, so intervals, in my definition, are the beginning of a chord. It's the actual old definition of a chord is 2 notes or more. Okay, so if you look up the etymology of a chord, which means you don't need 3 notes to make a chord. Most people teach you guys that a chord is 3 notes, and that's why you're kind of stuck, because a chord is not always 3 notes in the old definition. What if I played A and E, and then I played E at the bottom? Now you have what's called quintal harmony, and this is used in, Playboy Cardi type stuff. Okay, so now you can understand where melody derives from on a core level. So that's going to unlock so much for you guys, is just to simply understand chords. For example, how do I voice this chord to sound more melodic? I'm taking the third, which is this note E, pulling it up an octave. And we can also swap out the sound. So if I'm doing more soft stuff, I like the E piano sound. So let's first make out the chord. Here it is. Here's the minor ninth chord. I learned this from Jeff Schneider. It's called the 10th concept. And it's a really dope way to think about it. So instead of thinking of this as a raised third, which it technically is, he calls it a 10th. And he's on YouTube. Go subscribe to Jeff Schneider. It's a really dope way to just think about melody. So now it sounds more melodic. I'm just playing C minor ninth. Okay, which the chord codes are on the screen for those who want to learn chord codes. This is my proprietary system on how I create chords from scratch. And now it sounds melodic just by raising this third. So a lot of pain melodies also raise the thirds in terms of the voicing. So I might play something like that. Now you have to get used to voicing it this way. That's the harder part of learning piano, is just understanding how to see chords very spread apart. That's probably the hardest part about learning chords, is just seeing everything. So see how everything has a direction? All right, so everything comes from chords, okay? So when you guys are stuck, it's chords. Now let's apply this to FL Studio. We're gonna use FL Studio stock plugins just so you guys can follow along. Let's open up the plugin called Poison. Let's go to preset, go to default, so it starts with a sawtooth. And let's use these concepts. So let's go in here, let's click in the chord codes, and let's say we wanna build a specific chord. Let's go to practice mode, and let's say we wanna start with something more jazzy, like a 7th chord or a 9th chord. Let's do a 9th chord just to be really exotic. Okay, let's do E, and let's do a minor 9th. So let's do E 9th, and then find where it says minor 9th or lowercase m9. Okay, so now we have E minor 9th, and then we could choose the voicing. So let's try what's called a piano spread. So this will teach you new voicings. Voicings really are the secret to everything in music theory. So we have E, and now I'm gonna learn how to create a new chord basically. E, B, F sharp, G, B, D. So basically G major. Playing this is a little bit difficult because all the notes are kind of together. So now I have this really unique way to play E minor 9th. All right, that's not a typical way to play it, okay? So let's right click and let's go into the piano roll and let's do that same voicing here. I'm gonna hold the notes so I don't lose the notes. So we have D, B, G, F sharp, B, and then E. So it's the root note, the perfect fifth, and the perfect fifth of the perfect fifth, which is called the 9th. And then we have G major on top of that. All right, so these are the notes. And now what I'm gonna do is just use my ear. We're not gonna get too complex about everything. We're just listening to this top tone. Now my ear wants to hear F sharp, so let's hit shift, pull this up. Let's hit control up just so we can hear the tone. Let's go back down. Now again, it doesn't matter if it's major or minor. Usually when you're in the 9th territory, you could swap either or, but if you wanted to change it to the other chord type, you would take these notes at the bottom, take this middle note, hit shift down, and that sounds a little more cohesive, more EDM-ish though. And then my ear wants to hear the same again, but just something else underneath. So what we're gonna do is copy this over and do that same technique. Take the third of this little triad right here and take all the 1st, 5th, and 9th at the bottom, hit shift down. So now we have a unique chord, and we just showed you one chord type, okay? So let's hit Alt A, and here's the second step, is to go from chords and then adding arpeggiation, because arpeggiation, what it does is it gives a linear sustained thing like this as a chord, it gives it rhythm. So now there are 4 layers to a melody, to be short. You have what's called the top line. This is your memorable melody. You have the harmony section, which is your chords, your glue to your track. You have a contrast section, which is your density to the track, usually contrasting that top line. And then you have a rhythm section, okay? So what we're doing is we're taking the chords, the harmony, and we're adding rhythm to it. Let's hit Alt A and change the range to 2. Now, because the range is so high tuning, we can also consider this a top line. All right, now it's just about sound designing, okay? So let's add this to the playlist. So everything comes down to chords. Whenever you guys are stuck, it's probably because you don't understand the chord relationship underneath the hood. So now we have the arpeggio, we have the chord, and that's why I built this whole music theory plugin for you guys. And it's a standalone for those who don't want to load up a DAW. You could just practice. Okay, we go through all the chord types for you guys, scale types. I didn't really get into everything about this. Guitar voicings, the traditional staff for you guys, learning mode. There's a game mode for you guys. You can drag and drop chords in. So let's say you have a chord progression like this. You could just grab the MIDI, drag it over here. Now it's on Mac, it doesn't. I gotta fix the Mac version, but on PC it works. I don't know why the Windows different on Mac, so I don't know why. But you guys can just export the MIDI and save that wherever. All right, but on PC, you just drag and drop. I don't know why Mac's tripping. Okay, and then go over to trigger mode and you can load up your own pad. So for example, I can add a chord here and then stamp it. So now when I play C on my keyboard, it plays this entire chord, and I can add a chord here. So let's do the second chord, stamp that. So now I can play 2 notes on my keyboard, just to show you guys I'm playing 2 notes. Okay, so I'm playing C, and then C sharp will trigger this one. And let's add another chord. Let's add the landing chord. All right, so now we have 3 chords, and then we can use this to trigger anything. I can go to the MIDI out, for example, set the out port to 0, output port to 0, and I can load up any plugin. Let's just do it in Poison. I don't know if Poison has a MIDI port, so I don't think that has a MIDI port. I'm not sure how to set that up. So let's just do a third-party plugin like Omnisphere, for example. So this is another way to kind of create different genres, is to simply allow yourself to use these kind of pre-built chord structures so that it just creates a different sound. It's like sampling hip hop versus playing the note straight out. So now in Omnisphere, we're going to go to the setting and set the import to 0. So it's the same number as the output port here, the MIDI output port. And now when I hit the notes in this plugin, it should trigger the Omnisphere. Now, what I'm going to do is send this to the mixer so I can mute it so you guys don't hear 2 tones at once. All right, now we got to go to our trigger mode. All right, let's add these chords. Boom. So now you guys are hearing keyscape. All right, so now if I play these, I don't know why there's a weird tone in here that's not to be. There's like a sour note in here somewhere. I don't know where it is, but you guys get the gist. Okay, that's what trigger mode is. All right, so yeah, that's at busyworksbeats.com. The chord codes you guys have been asking for, so I finally made it's a standalone product. All right, anyway, let's go back to the step. So step 1 was build chords. Step 2 is arpeggiate. And step 3 is going to send this. We're going to send this to the mixer, hit Control L. We're going to load up what's called gross speed. Now, I used to just overlook gross speed because most people used it for half speed or just basic stutters. But I think Aiden showed how he goes to juggling science, but I made my own gross speed practice for you guys. It's in the Discord. It's completely free. Just go to discord.gg/busyworksbeats. The link is in the video description. And basically, you just go to the downloads area and you guys can find this. So I've created a gross beat for you, presets. So think of this like a post-production step on your melody. Now, most people don't know you can blend the time knob in. So we're basically creating a contrast layer. So remember, we have the top line, we have the harmony, and now we're creating a contrast layer because we're adding this half speed with a glitch on it. And we have rhythm, if I didn't already say that. Now, another plugin that can add motion. Now, that might be too much motion for this beat, so I might just put it on simple half speed mode and just kind of keep it basic for this specific technique that I'm about to do. But we may take away half speed. It just depends on this next step. Now, the next step is to add a plugin called Transporter. So this is how we're starting to granulize the melody. And a lot of people overlook, if you ever wonder where those glittery sounds come from, those like octave, smeary, like, you know, those arpeggio sounding sounds, try Transporter. Now I keep mine on tempo sync and I change the tempo trigger to the quintuplets. So not triplets, not dotted notes, but quintuplets. And I just like the setting because it's just different. And then we could turn up the spread. This will change the way it responds. So think of this like a delay that we can change the tuning for. So under the octave, we're going to turn this up and then turn the octave to the right, which is up. And you can also reverse. Now we have a lot of motion going on. So the key here is to make sure that it's not overwhelming. So here's without the half speed. Or no, that was with half speed. Here's without half speed. Now, what if we put half speed after the granular? It's just a little too much emotion. Okay, so we're at this point, we're just trying to control the rhythm. So let's go back to the BusyWorks presets. Here it is. And don't be afraid to use the green knob to blend it. pull this range up a little bit. Another thing about growth speed that I learned is take off the snap mode. This will introduce new areas of growth speed you guys didn't realize. So try hitting this little X button to remove the snap to grid, because it definitely creates a new sound when you just kind of free morph around. Growth speed is all about just doing it by ear. There's no like playbook about growth speed. So we have a lot of motion, like I said. Let's go back to transporter and just turn down these. And we can also just remove the reverse. And we don't always have to do octave jumps either. We could go down. Let's go to the core sound itself. I feel like we could do a little bit more for the sound itself. Like let's give it a filter, for example. Now this is just not mandatory, but let's give it an envelope. So it sounds more like a pluck. Now most people don't know here, you have what's called unison. If we turn this up, it's gonna give it a metallic sound, and we can pan this out to make it wider. All right, so see how all these effects add up? Now if you're really crazy, you can print this. Now this is completely experimental, what we're about to do, so let's consolidate this to audio. And I think I learned this from Thayer, if I'm not mistaken, or 9Anyal. It was somebody on YouTube. I can't remember exactly who, so forgive me for not crediting the exact content creator. But if you double click here, right click, and then open this in Fruity Granulizer. Okay, you can really mess with the settings here. So what I usually like the wave spacing in reverse, so it plays the sample in reverse. And just mess with the grain spacing. And you usually get these weird smeary tones. Now again, it's hit or miss depending on the sample. But if you play high enough, you can get these really weird. Like that's a pretty dope sound. Even as a sound effect, that's pretty dope. Let's record that in. Like that's just a dope texture. What we're gonna do though is just tune it. So and now we have a super unique texture. Alright, so let's pull back the MIDI because I'm going to show you guys something. Now, Rio Leva does this a lot, is adds pitch bends. Now, the original person who brought this to my attention is Synthit. And basically, you can either pitch bend everything. So to explain this, because we have so many notes, pitch bend only works when you have two overlapping notes. So for example, if I add a note here, and I double click and make it a pitch bend, it will only pitch bend that note, okay, that overlaps. So what we're gonna have to do is make the note longer. So you can highlight this note, hit Control L, and then highlight the pitch bend note, make it longer, and it pitch bends for that amount of time. Now, when you guys hear pitch bends, you're hearing everything pitch bent. Is that the word? You're hearing everything's tuning be dragged down. So let me see if I kept the original. I don't think I kept the original chords here. So we're gonna have to create new chords just so I can demonstrate this for you guys. Let's record this in. All right, so we're gonna take that. So those are the chords. Let's hit Shift Q. I used to hit Control Q. Control Q quantizes the beginning and the end according to your snap to grid. Shift Q just quantizes the beginning. So it leaves little gaps at the end. Now, sometimes notes overlap, like right here, because the length wasn't quantized at the end. So there's a script in FL Studio's form called Remove Overlaps. You have to Google this and how to install it. But it helps when you're playing stuff in by MIDI that just overlaps when you quantize. And then we're gonna fix the gross beat for this specific approach. So let's turn that off. So let's apply those same steps. Okay, but before we get there, let's talk about pitch bending. So if I add a note down here, for example, double click on it, add pitch bend, it will pitch bend all of these notes in the same MIDI channel down to that note. And sometimes you don't want that. You just want one note pitch bent. So what we can do is double click, change the color. This is the MIDI channel number. And then we can double click the pitch bend note, make it the same MIDI channel number. So it will only affect, and again, I learned this from Synth It on YouTube. Now this pitch bend will only affect the same color or the same MIDI channel. It won't affect all these notes. And now it's more natural of a pitch bend. So let's do this for the bass. And you could do this per MIDI channel. So I think Rio Leva just took it to the max and just changed all the MIDI channels. That would take a lot of thought. So, I mean, if you guys are into that type of production, think of it almost like, what's it called? MPE in a way. It's just a little more manual. Okay. So not everything again needs all these pitch bends, but I'm just showing you guys. So this one goes up, the other one goes down. And if you, let me turn this up a little bit. Okay, so it creates those like jazz-esque bends. And I've noticed, you know, the sweet spot is going down 7 notes. So whenever you're unsure, take that top note and just go down 7 notes. Let's see how far of a distance this is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In this case, 8, because we're going into the next leading tone. But when you go down 7, it's a nice blend. Okay, so now we just need to change the sound. This sound is very heavy, so let me go into the EQ. This is arbitrary, it's just a heavy sound, so I gotta EQ it. Where are you at, EQ? Here we go. We're gonna cut the bottom. Now, I would not recommend cutting that many lows. I just did that because I want you guys to hear it. And then we can even collapse this chord here. Remember, they need to be the same exact MIDI channel for the notes to slide. So I'm gonna just choose that top row so I don't forget which sub color I use. And then I want to do like that. You guys are hearing the transporter plugin right now. That's another great way to create melody sometimes, is just mess with transporter and just loop and record into Edison. That's a little bonus for you guys. Okay, so now we have this super expressive melody because we have that pitch bend. Most people, the reason their melodies sound stiff, and if you took my music theory in a day course at busyworksbeats.com/premium, the first fundamental thing I talk about is how birds chirp and how songbirds, how they actually create their melodies. And a lot of it is pitch bending. So in the human voices, a lot of pitch bending. It's not like this. We do not talk like this, and then we change. No. And that's how a lot of people are making melodies. It's like dun 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 dun. You know, it's like very just stiff because there's no movement to the notes. Now, the last tip here is to add tools like Looperator. It's kind of expensive, but it's worth the money. If you are into genres like this, I will say highly recommended, but it is expensive though. It took me a while to justify it, and I have like 2,000 plugins. And there's another alternative called Shaperbox, but I will say Shaperbox is a little more complex. So the reason I don't use it as much, but I still use it, it's just a little complex, even for me as a sound designer. It's just a lot going on. So I usually just use presets. And that's why a lot of people have kits for Shaperbox, because it just takes too much time to be going in here, figuring out the exact curvature, you know, so mostly it's just filter movements and the pitch movements that just take forever. It is a cool sound for some melodies. Now this melody, I don't like the Shaperbox approach, But looperator is really dope because you can go in here. This is my favorite, what do you call it? Like repeater. And then I have the effect usually set to tape stop. And then at the bottom, if you hit Alt, or on any row, if you hit Alt, you can make it randomize. And then on the right side, you can slide this mix level, okay, to blend it in. So if you have a more sustained sound like these chords in a simple saw, you can add repeaters to make it sound rhythmic. So it goes din, 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 like that, and it adds more transient information. You can just right click to get rid of stuff. And now it's just about shaping the core sound itself. So now we're gonna go back to the sound. And now we can go in and take the EQ back, pull the EQ back. That gross beat. See if that adds anything. It probably won't on this. Let's add our arpeggio. Now, once we do the arpeggio thing, it will get rid of all these slide notes. So what I'm going to do is highlight everything that's not a slide note. Then this is completely experimental. I have no idea what this is going to sound like. Let's hit Alt A, keep the range on 2. Another thing I learned from, I want to say 9 on y'all, if I'm not mistaken. Man, he dropped a lot of tips. I think it was him. Hit Alt R, and we used to use this trick for velocity, but once I started, I just wasn't using stock plugins in FL Studio enough to use this function. But you guys can hit Alt R, turn the pattern mode off, and it will keep your notes the same. Go to where it says levels and mess with the panning. So that's a pretty unique technique. And we used to do it on velocity all the time, but panning is something I never really thought. And keep it on bipolar mode, so when it pans, it goes left and right. Creates more motion. Take out some of these note repeats. Now remember, we're trying to add a sustained note. Let's see what happens if we arpeggiate all the notes. Now we'll get rid of our slide notes, so I'm just letting you guys know. Let's hit Alt A and hit Alt R. Okay, interesting. It doesn't affect the slide notes, but it affects, I never saw that before. Okay, this is interesting. Let's see what it sounds like. So still pitch bends. Never seen that before. Let's figure out why it sounds so thin. I think one of my settings has it. Now we can also add what's called glide time. This is portamento, so it pitch bends between notes without any pitch bend notes. It's the resonance. Someone's just making this. So now I'm increasing the release so that we have longer notes. I'm trying to figure out why the notes sound so cut off. It's like some notes are filtered, some aren't. I don't know, my ear's tricking me. For some reason, I don't know what is exactly causing this, but it feels like the cutoff. This is lower the cutoff. sound designing. All right, let's add these effects back. And I kind of want to start from scratch. I clicked something that messed that up. Let's leave it on the standard, because something I did messing up the effect. Let's have that glitter sound. I meant to say grain. That looperator. And we have a lot of effects. We're just stacking like every effect we have. And then another thing is to hit shift down and transpose the key, or shift up. Just try different keys. I'm gonna take out some of these pitch bending notes. I think those slide notes were affecting the notes. That's what it was. Alright, now I'm going to just show you guys how to sound design. Now we are into the bonus territory, so this is not a mandatory watch, but we can add the fruity limiter and then turn the ceiling up and mess with the saturation here. I believe Analog Princess does this technique. I can't remember who, but it's either 9on Analog Princess, or Aiden. One of these guys showed me this. I just never thought to apply it to a melody. Let's get rid of some of the movement. I feel like Transporter is just... So I raised the octave. So now we're getting this really unique. Like I said, you guys can blend gross beat, half speed with this. You can do juggling science. Now this I'd probably automate because it's a little too much every single time. But it is a cool effect though, especially for underground melodies. Now, I don't know if you guys knew this, but you could right click and automate the actual preset for the time area or for the volume area. So over time you could change the actual preset. I don't know if people knew that. I'm gonna try half speed though for this. Let's drop it an octave. Now, another plugin people add is Serum Effects, and you know I could be here all day sound designing. We could hit OTT with this as well. I feel like OTT thins out a sound if you don't like a master at using this. But it definitely adds an EDM type sound. I just think it thins out things by default. But Serum Effects is another plugin. Also, Omnisphere has different effects. Let's do Serum 2 effects, and then we can do things like add, add distortion and add tube distortion, which you kind of already did with the fruity limiter. Just a little bit of a different vibe though. We gotta do. No, we're not using audio, duh. So we don't need... And then we can automate cutoffs. There's a lot we can do from this. Now learning this from Nest Acoustics, you can right click here and modulate by note on random. Now I'm thinking about it. It's not receiving MIDI information, but let's just do this. Let's do note on random. And we need to give it some kind of MIDI information. Let's also do this with this curve over here. And basically we need to go to the settings here, give it a MIDI import. So let's do 0. And I think, okay, so what we're gonna have to do is copy the MIDI, hit Control C, open up what's called a MIDI out, hit Control V. And so this is triggering Omnisphere. Let's get rid of that. And let's put it to port 0, so it's the same number. And now we're triggering Serum, and it should change that curvature. So now we get different curvatures every time the note hits. That might be a little too much. So let's just give it a rhythm. We don't need to, it's not note specific, it just needs a rhythm. So let's just do this cadence, this timing. So again, to reset everything, click here, go to 1, or you can right click up here, I think. That selects the color, but if you left click, you can select 1. So now you don't have to keep switching between MIDI channels. So let's hit Control L. Make sure it has the defined length. Hit Control B. So we're just giving it a rhythm, and this is triggering Serum. So every one of these hits, it will change the curvature. So now we should have a slower curvature change. So I learned that from Nest Acoustics, how to do that technique. Recommend you guys sign up for his course. All right, now let's see what, I forgot we had all this stuff in here. So let's change, see what it sounds like. Now that melody sounds different because that wasn't the intent to have halftime. Here's our new melody. Now from here again, guys, it's about creativity. Adding Fruity Delay 3 is another technique. I like bandpass sometimes so that we don't capture the entire signal. Let's do ping pong. And I like to do weird time. So in the top left, it tells you the time. So let's do like 5 or 3 or 7, something different. So it's not just 2 or 4. And most people don't know, again, you can right click, create an automation clip for that time knob for gross beat. And I don't usually add my melodies all on one channel either. Let's also automate Serum. You can also Control G to group automation clips. So it's easier to create longer edits. Alright, now it's about getting that source sound to feel right. So now we have a super unique melody. A lot of steps though. I think because I'm trying to teach you guys 80,000 steps, you know, let's start from absolute scratch and then this will be our final thing, just to show you guys how simple it is. I know that was a lot of steps. So let's start from scratch for people who skip ahead. Now my favorite plugin is called Toxic Biohazard. We just dropped like 85 Toxic Biohazard presets in our Discord. So let me see if I can find it. So there's 85 presets for you guys, from bass to brass to keys, all types of stuff. Let's start with one of these sounds because it just, you know, saves some time here. Open this up. Okay, so cool stuff like that. E-piano sounds, all types of stuff. Let's do something different. Let's do an E-piano. All right, so let's start with the chords. Let's record these in. Let's do something different though. Let's do... yeah, let's do something like that. I think I missed one note, so let's figure that out. Say Shift Q, quantize everything. Now, for this, we're gonna have to quantize to the beat, so we have to change the snap to grid. I want to add one more note in here. Okay, so this is just me adding that note. Okay, so I'm just adding little leading tones in there. And we can leave that as is. So I'm just going to duplicate that so we don't lose it. Let's clone this pattern. On pattern 5, we're going to hit Alt A. Let's do those techniques. It's going to sound very different. Let's hit Control Up. Let's hit Alt R. Because it's changing our voicing of the chord, so it's going to sound different. I also want a different sound. There we go. So then we hit Alt R to add that randomness. To Control L, send this to the mixer so we can add gross beat. Again, there's a million things that you guys can use in gross beat. We're just going to use some of the stuff we've already built. So that's where the notes were cutting off, was in gross beat on the old melody. Okay. Now we have that. Let's add Transporter may or may not add a vibe. So let's see, because this is already glittery of a sound. Let's see if Transporter adds any vibe. Might be too much movement. Just gonna tuck this down so for texture. Think of those like micro delays. Alright, then we can add something like looperator or just kind of like a finalizer in terms of rhythm. And again, at this point, it's just about the source sound itself. Brighten up this tone a little bit. Okay, so that's how we can create these like more unique tones. And one more thing I'm going to teach you guys, since this video is already super long, is we're going to go to the plugin itself, hit the settings. We're going to change the pitch range to 2, right click, create an automation clip, and then we can right click, okay, and then change the snap to grid, for example, to a half beat or beat, doesn't really matter. Just right click a node, paste that in, and then we can pitch bend up to the notes. It's a technique from R&B. You could also do the octave. No rules. It's just smart, tiny little technique. Now, once you set the pitch range, you can't just change it and then it applies. You have to set a whole new automation. So, for example, if I want to do octaves, I have to change this to 12 and then automate this with a brand new thing. At least from what maybe not. Let me see how many cents this says. Yeah. See, negative. Yeah, this one's maxed out at 200. So this one's maxed out at 1200 cents. You can read the values in the top left. So for example, add a node, right click, hit V to paste. And now we're doing octaves. And you can do octave stuff like this. The transporter is the thing that's morphing all these octave jumps. So now I'm pitching the delays down. So as you guys can hear, we're getting a really unique approach. To have some delays in chorus just to mess with the rhythm. Okay, so unison. And again, you guys can get as crazy as you want. Let's modulate this more so we get more of a sawtooth. Pull back some of these. And don't forget in the sound itself. So again, we're modulating modulation of the modulation at this point. So it's getting very complex. I don't expect you guys to know everything I'm doing here. Giving this a decay curvature here. Now we're in territory where it's just super experimental. Showing you guys how far you can take it. Let's add that pretty limiter. Not as a limiter, but as a saturator. I meant to tell you guys on the compressor mode, turn the threshold to the left, turn the ratio to the left. This also adds dynamic, depending on your melody. It's called an expander. Right now I'm at a soft clipper so that we don't get any random peaks. And again, you guys can go back and hit shift up, shift down, control down to do octaves. Change out. for this sound, let me just show you guys how I would do this normally. Is since we're in such experimental territory, we want something that just the ear can understand, that's not so complex. So I might do, for example, a simple bass. So I'm going to copy this. Dang, you guys, FL crashed. But basically what I was going to say is you just copy it and just copy the bottom notes into a bass line. So we're going to wrap the video here. FL just crashed out on us. Thank you guys for watching. Go to busyworksbeats.com/premium to learn how to make beats like the pros. You guys will learn melody, music theory, mixing, mastering, sound selection, sampling, sound design. Go to busyworksbeats.com/premium. Peace out, guys.